Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in for Week 8 Power Rankings. Week 7, we could just say it's been a crazy week. Crazy week. Comebacks, blowouts, close game, all that. But before I get into my Power Rankings, make sure you guys leave this video a like as it continues to help this channel to grow, and I am trying to get to 6K subs before the end of the calendar year of 2025. So leaving the video a like will do a long way of helping this channel out. And make sure you click the subscribe button and notification bell so you not miss anything that I post. But it's time to rank some football teams in the NFL. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Here are my rankings from last week, and I always say every week is subject to change. So let's just see what we got. Okay, so first we're gonna start with the teams that are on bye weeks. Like I always say, if you don't play football, you don't move. I had the Buffalo Bills at the A tier, and I am going to keep them there. And I had the Baltimore Ravens at the D tier. We're gonna keep them at that. And now we get into our first game of the week, which is the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, in which the Bengals really play some really good football on both sides of the ball. Who would have expected that from Flacco? I'm going to move them up to a C, and the decision to acquire Joe Flacco is looking like the best decision they could have made, especially with Jake Brown and basically sinking them. And their defense actually did play a little bit better. I'm not going to say a lot, but a little bit better, but Joe Flacco and Jamar Chase with that breakout game, they were finally able to get the run game going. So I'm going to move the Bengals up to a C. And as far as the Steelers go, this is a tough team to rank, but I'm going to drop them because the Steelers historically have a history of playing down to their competition, and they did it yet again. That defense did not play well at all. Secondary, which I think is missing Fitzpatrick in that back end, to be honest with you. And they did not play very well defensively. Offensively, they were able to get some throws, but I still think George Pickens is starting to look like it really hurt this football team as far as his passing game goes. And the running game has been kind of hit or miss for them all season. So I'm going to drop them to a B. Next is the Los Angeles Rams versus the Chargers. I'm going to keep the Rams at an A. What a phenomenal football game that was played by Matthew Stafford. They got the run game going a tad bit, and that was something they kind of struggled with, in my opinion, for a good portion of the year, is them getting consistent out of their run game. But for the Jacksonville Jaguars, has the Kansas City game been their peak? And it's looked like it the last 2 weeks of them playing football, is that game looks like they peaked at the wrong time. Maybe that's just me, but it just looks like defensively things are starting to fall. Offensively, they started to be more inconsistent the last 2 weeks, and their performance in London was kind of abysmal. So I'm going to have to drop them to a B. Plus, they are getting their own way with self-inflicted wounds, whether it's penalties, dropped footballs, or just mistakes. This team is one that gets in their own way a lot. Now we're going to get to my Chicago Bears versus New Orleans Saints, and this is probably the highest I probably ever had the Bears on this channel. I'm going to put the Bears at an A. The longest win streak in the league, as we said right now, 4 consecutive wins. They got a defense that is very opportunistic, that create turnovers. Their run game is finally getting some rhythm and finally getting going with Swift and Manungai playing really good football these last 2 weeks. Caleb kind of struggled a bit. The passing game has been a bit inconsistent, but their run game has been carrying them these last 2 weeks. And their defense with their opportunistic ability to create turnovers, and they play much better against the Saints running game. And the Saints are still one of the worst teams in football. Outside of maybe 2 or 3 drives, this Saints team looked terrible. They looked terrible for most portions of this game offensively. And defensively, Demario Davis is still one of those ageless wonders. But when we're talking about that front four, it's starting to look a little bit old outside of Chase Young getting some pressures. But that run defense, look, they gave holes all day long. Next is the Miami Dolphins versus the Cleveland Browns. The Dolphins, when are you going to fire Mike McDaniel? because at the time of me recording this, which is actually Monday afternoon, they still haven't fired him. When are they going to fire him? Because at this point, changes are needed, whether it's Tua with his interception throwing self. And defense has been looking terrible. They made the Browns look like world beaters. I'm still going to have the Browns at D. But, man, they ran the football with my boy Crenshaw Junkins from The Ohio State University. That defense is still one of the best in the league. Dylan Gabriel hasn't been half bad, if we're going to be honest. But, damn, the Dolphins are trash. Absolutely trash. That team needs a big shift, and they need it fast. Majorly fast. Next is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs offensively are starting to look like the Chiefs that we've been accustomed to, with Rashee Rice catching 2 touchdowns and healthy. I think they still need to run the football a little bit better. But the passing game is starting to explode. Mahomes look like Mahomes. That defense is playing better. But the Raiders are trash too. The Raiders are absolutely trash. Geno Smith is looking like a bad decision. Offensively, they can't stay any rhythm. Defensively, I've always said that secondary is a big hole in their defense, and it's proven more and more. But, man, this team, I think that they just got to get a new quarterback. I'm sorry. Geno's not it. Next is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings. I am keeping the Eagles at A. I want to move them up to S, and I'm going to do so. I wanted to keep them at A, but they were explosive passing the football. Running the ball, it still needs some work. The offensive line is not performing to the custom that we're used to. They also have some knick-knack injuries from their offensive line. Defensively, I don't think they were necessarily where they were last year, but it's still a solid defense. They've had guys hurt, whether it's been Carter, whether it's been a guy like a Zach Bond, that I don't think has been playing up to consistent football. The pass rush has, at least in my eyes, hasn't been the same. But I'm going to put them at an S, because a game like that against Minnesota is a game that they really had to have. In Minnesota, I'm keeping it at a B. I can't drop them lower. I still think Minnesota is a very good football team. They were competitive in this game. I like the way that they do things defensively, even though they got exposed in the passing game. Offensively, they were kind of hit or miss. But I will keep the Vikings at B. Next is the Carolina Panthers versus the New York Jets. I'm keeping the Panthers at B. I really think this team is starting to come around. I really start to believe this team is coming together as far as a defensive unit. Offensively, they kind of did struggle a bit against the Jets. But defensively, I think they're starting to play much better football. God, the Jets are so damn bad. Ooh. Damn, the Jets are bad. I hate the fact that Justin Fields is benching. It's probably the end of it for him, to be honest. As much as I root for him, former Ohio State Buckeye, former Bear, but it's not looking the same on both sides of football, even though their defense did play a lot better this week. Offensively, their offense is just non-existent. Trash. Absolute pure trash. Then we're going to have the New England Patriots versus the Tennessee Titans. I am keeping the Patriots at S. Drake May is starting to look like he's starting to play in the levels of a top 15, top 10 quarterback at this point right now. I wish they would run the football a little bit more with Henderson, kind of get some balance out. Defensively, they have been playing some really good football. And when we're talking about this Patriots team, is still one of the better teams in the league. And Mike Vrabel is doing a hell of a coaching job. He is doing a hell of a coaching job with this team. And as far as the Titans go, Cam Warren has his hits and misses. Defensively, they look exposed. This is just not a very good football team. And they have some organizational problems with GM coaching. It doesn't look like a good situation that Cam Warren can develop in. I'm starting to believe that it's serious. It doesn't look like a good situation for him to be able to develop and possibly turn into a quarterback that they drafted him to be. Next, we're going to have the Denver Broncos versus the New York Giants. I cannot move the Broncos up. Despite them coming back 30 points to the fourth quarter to win this game, the Giants kind of handed them the ball game at times, especially missed extra points, turnovers, bad mistakes, bad defensive play calling. Credit to the Broncos for executing, but it's not like the Broncos just permanently just dominated this ball game at any point They did get well on their last drive, but the Giants pretty much handed them the damn game. And I want to move the Giants down so bad, but they have a lot to build on. Jackson Dart looks like the quarterback that should have been starting anyway. Cam Scatterbull has been playing some really good football. And outside of the fourth quarter, that defense looked really phenomenal. Their front four is a phenomenal front four. And outside of that fourth quarter where they started to drop 8 men back, which I still don't understand that, this Giants team, at least in my opinion, is better than what their record says. They are better than 2-5. They are better than that, at least in my opinion. I'm not one of those guys that believes, oh, the record says what you are. No, you're not. I believe the Giants are better than their record. I personally do. I do. Yo, what's up, guys? APW Sports here, and today's video is being brought to you by ExpressVPN. Now, there's a few things I really like about having ExpressVPN. One, I feel protected. Being on the internet a lot as a content creator, or being on the internet, period, especially in the 2025 modern era, you're gonna need protections from hackers. You're gonna need protections from your passwords. You're gonna need protections from your vital credit card, vital personal information. ExpressVPN does an excellent job of protecting you. And also, if things happen to slip or if things have been exposed before, you will get alerts to your phone that will let you know that things have been exposed to the dark web and that you should take action. And then another thing that I really like about it is that you can unlock more of Netflix. Now, me personally, if you guys don't know, I am a big WWE fan. And since the WWE has a partnership with Netflix in the international areas, you can get your PLEs, you can get your Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all things WWE on Netflix. Best thing to do, switch your location to say a Canada, to say a United Kingdom, and bam, there you go. You have all your access to your WWE content, and it unlocks more things that necessarily United States does not carry. And that is another thing that I really love about ExpressVPN. So to get yours today and get 3 months free, click the link below and use code APW Sports at checkout to get 3 months free of ExpressVPN. You will not regret that at all. Best investment you will ever make. Protect yourself and unlock more television on Netflix to watch. Now, we're gonna get back to this video. But now we're gonna go to the Colts and the Chargers. I was one that was skeptical of the Colts and the way they played in this particular ball game against the Chargers, dominant on both sides of the ball. Physical up front, running the football. Daniel Jones has been playing some really good football. That defense of the Colts is opportunistic and turning the football over. Very physical defense. Shout out to Shane Steichen. I think he's probably the coach of the year front runner at this point. I really do believe so. And then we're going to talk about the Chargers. I'm keeping the Chargers at B. I still believe this is a very good football team. And they got out. And who was this ever say that Jim Harbaugh coached football team would ever be out physical? And that is exactly what happened. So I give the Colts all the credit in the world. I was one that's skeptical at first. That is a very good football team. And the Chargers, they are so inconsistent offensively. We know they have the injuries from the running back position. And Vidal has been a big spot for them, but it's just been inconsistent offensively, in my opinion. Next, we're going to have the Green Bay Packers and the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals will lose a 5 straight. I got to drop them to a D. I personally believe this offense performs slightly better with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Maybe that's just me. The passing game looks a lot different with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And their defense, they had some chances to make stops, and they didn't do so. And as far as the Packers go, it's hard for me to move them. They ran the football well. It's just this passing game has got to have some type of rhythm and consistency. Tucker Kraft, he's one of the more underrated tight ends that we have in this league, and I will admit that. Defensively, Michael Parsons, 3 sacks. That is the reason you go get a guy like a Michael Parsons. But I've always believed that this Packers secondary is still, I think that's one of their biggest question marks outside of consistent wide receiver production. And I think that's why their offense is looking so inconsistent, is because of the lack of the true number 1 guy at that wide receiver position. So it's hard for me to move this team up. So I'm going to keep them at a B. Next up, we're going to have the Washington Commanders versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Commanders, I'm sorry, I'm going to drop this team. Defensively, these last couple of weeks, they have been making mistakes. Offensively, whether it was Daniels and Mariota, they just cannot be consistent. And when we're talking about the injuries, it's really starting to show with this Commanders team. Whether it's McLaurin, Debo, the offensive injuries is looking like they're starting to show its ugly head. And then on top of that, Jaden Daniels is now hurt, which doesn't make this team any better. Doesn't make things any better. But now let's time for the Sunday night. I am keeping the Falcons at a B, and the reason I keep the Falcons at B, their defense plays some phenomenal football. Their defense played really well. It's just their offense all season has basically been inconsistent. They have one good game here, one bad, and I think this is a team thing as well. One good game one week, they look terrible one week, and they look great the next week. They looked great last week against the Buffalo Bills on Monday night. They looked terrible this week against the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday night. Very inconsistent football team. Very inconsistent. And the 49ers, I am going to put the 49ers at the A tier. A tier football team. And I believe they're a football team because of the coaching job that has been done by Kyle Shanahan and his coaching staff. Big one. And I really like the way that they're using CMC. Really good football team despite all of the injuries that they're suffering. And I didn't do the Cowboys ranking, but I'm moving the Cowboys up to a B. I mistakenly passed that. Cowboys are a B because, number one, that offense is championship caliber. The defense did play better, even though the Commanders had a ton of injuries. But they are able to make some turnovers, get some stops. And we don't need, if the Cowboys offense can perform the way it is, they don't need this defense to be all worldly. If we can get them to bottom to just kind of porous is just a better upgrade for this offense. Just be more aggressive is, I think, the recipe for this Cowboys defense to be a little bit better. Eberflus, I know he doesn't have the reputation to be an aggressive guy, but I think they really need to be aggressive because they could take some chances with the way that this offense is performing. I really believe that this defense has to start taking some chances. But that offense, man, can they score some points in bunches. All right, so we're going to start off with the first Monday Night Football game. I still hate the fact that there's two, which is the Buccaneers and the Lions, two teams that were at my S-tier rankings last week. And honestly, I am still going to have those two football teams at my S-tier. I know it's crazy. I got more teams than I usually do have in the S-tier. But I believe this is a well-played game. The Buccaneers' injuries started to catch up with them a bit. The secondary of the Lions, they were injury-riddled, but man, did they play a very good football game. Sucks that Mike Evans is probably going to be out for the rest of the season, which sucks. But I think once the Buccaneers get some of their guys back outside of Mike Evans, I still think this is a very good football team. The Lions played well, ran the football very well, and their defense played a lot better than what you expected, especially with the secondary injuries. So I don't think that loss was enough to move the Buccaneers down. And the Lions, I still believe, are one of the better teams in football. So according to this, I am going to leave both at their respective positions. Then we got the Seattle Seahawks and Houston Texans. I'm keeping the Seattle Seahawks at A. That defense looked phenomenal, getting after C.J. Stroud. And offensively, man, Jackson Smith and Jigba from The Ohio State University, as well as C.J. Stroud. Man, he is starting to develop into that number one wide receiver role. I really like what they're doing with their running game. This team is a very formidable force. And I had the Texans at C, but I'm going to drop them. Their offensive line is so bad. And I think them running so much shotgun offense is killing them, especially with that bad offensive line. Their defense was basically what kept them in that ball game, whether it was turnovers, whether it was defensive touchdown by Will Anderson. That is what kept them in this ball game. But man, that offensive line is so bad. It cannot be consistent at all. And the weaponry, it kind of struggled. Nico Collins has some drops. This team is just literally a tale of two phases of the ball. Defensively, they can keep up with anybody, they can keep you in the game, but that offensive line is so bad still, and they rebuilt it from last year, and I believe it got worse and they just can't run the football consistently because the offensive line is so bad, and they've been playing from behind because the offense is not getting any movement. So I am going to move them down. But these are my rankings for week 7. I know it's a little bit late for me posting this, but things happen in my life. But nothing too serious. It's nothing serious, but just the scheduling things. But I'll leave this here. Leave this video a like. It continues to help the channel to grow, and it beats the algorithm. And the goal is 6K before the end of 2025. And make sure you click the subscribe button if you haven't already. And click the notification bell so you're not missing anything that I post. But I'm APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great day. And I'll catch you guys later.